playing in this industry. And I think together as we come with a lot of knowledge, with a lot of experience, and with a lot of options available, we'll be able to discuss and work together on how we make this a success for everybody. So first and foremost, Ribbon. It is a new logo, but it is not a new company. It's a mind share between two big players in the industry, Sonus Networks and Genband. They merged together to form Ribbon Communications. And then furthermore, in line with the theme of evolving connectivity, went ahead and acquired a company called Edgewater Networks, and more recently, Anova Data as well. So the whole play, which I will tie up with eventually, is towards an end-to-end communications platform, where we are not bound in any way by which sector we play in. It's all about unifying the communications. So about Ribbon, together, 4 decades of leadership experience. It's a global company. More than 100 countries we are doing business in, and extended further through partners such as Digital Meetings, because of who we are here today, and playing in just about every relevant sector to do with communications. So what do we enable? What do we secure? What do we analyze? Well, the communications. And we have various different means to get there, and slowly we'll just walk through it. I'll peel them open, and each one of them hopefully will have some relevance for us. But together we work to enable, secure, as well as draw some analytics knowledge from the communications trends, platforms that we all are using. Unifying communications is a concept which is not easily achieved, but is becoming more and more a theme as we are progressing through this particular trend. So the ideal use case would be a greenfield environment where there is absolutely nothing, and you are going in and you're laying out a platform. In that case, we will go with the latest and greatest. We will move to the cloud, or if it's an on-prem requirement, we will go with an end-to-end solution that incorporates the latest and greatest of technologies. However, the reality is that it is not that easy. You will go into environments which will have a mix of different technologies. It will be a mix of different vendors. It will be a mix of different concepts. So you could be in the cloud. You could be on-premise. It could be wireline. It could be wireless. There could be, the perfect cases, if you get into any one of these lifts, there'll be a phone over there, and it will be an analog phone. Right? So you have to incorporate that into unified communications. You have a mix of endpoints. And the challenge is, how do we bring everything together to talk to each other, to work with each other? And if possible, how do we centrally manage this if we are spread across multiple sites? Because many enterprises, as you are aware, are global enterprises now. So they could have offices in various different locations. Each location could have their own mix of telephony or communications activities. So how do we bring it together? And that is something we enable through some of the solutions that we provide. So, taking the next step, we have brought everything together. We have started communicating over an IP plane. We have a mix of employees. Some work on-prem, in the office, some are traveling. We have a mix of different devices. Some employees have soft phone clients, some employees have hard phone clients, some are accessing over a coffee shop, over a Wi-Fi, some are accessing over a GSM network, a mix of different connectivity mechanisms as well. Security is something that is becoming a bigger and bigger theme each day, regardless of which industry we play in. It could be the financial sector, it could be data communications, it could be telephony, right? It's a huge industry. There are various mechanisms by which, as we get more and more sophisticated with our technology, the bad actors get more and more sophisticated with their infiltration mechanisms. So some classic, all you've got to do is Google it and look for different things. One of the interesting ones I found was an organization got breached. They didn't even know about it because they had, as typically you would, a firewall. They had the ports open, and using a RTP stream, what seemed like a harmless media stream, data was pulled out of that particular organization, and obviously they found out about it much later. So there's various mechanisms, some of the popular ones: toll fraud, number harvesting, man-in-the-middle attacks. Let's eavesdrop and see what's going on both legs. denial of service, telephony denial of service, and the distributed equivalents of them as well. Call hijacking, caller ID spoofing. I spoke about data exfiltration, rogue RTP, let's keep your channels up, even though there is no call over there. Voice phishing, this one called spit, which is spam over internet telephony. And of course, malware. Let's look at the vulnerabilities in the network. So there's no point in securing this whole building if you leave a window open. And typically that window could be unified communications. Let's get in. Firewalls understand what's going on to a large extent. So let's get in through a mechanism where we look at the higher layers of the communication stack, which possibly the equipment will not pick up. And then let's wreak havoc in the organization. So security is a big theme. And we play in this very specifically for quite a number of years. The next evolution with security is there's a tendency to have a silo of data securing and securing your telecoms, your telecommunications, right? Session border controller, firewall. So one of the angles we're approaching, and this is proving to be quite popular, is how do we unify? So you've got firewalls spread across the network, you've got session border controllers spread across the network. How do we coordinate intelligence between the two? If the firewall is a first entry point and picks up something, why does that call have to go as far as the SBC to get dropped? Conversely, if the SBC has picked up a malformed SIP packet, why is that packet even allowed through the firewall to get as far as the SBC? So sharing this intelligence between the two security devices within your network is something you can achieve, and at the right position, block that bad actor straight away, right? And share that intel between the two. We'll look at later on how you can also pick up stats. You can coordinate as an industry and share these stats so that globally we are aware of all the bad locations, bad actors. And this will not be a one-time activity. This will be something that will need to keep getting updated. But how can you use the equipment which is part of your network already as a sensor device without adding anything extra to it? And how can you use it as a policy enforcement device, right? So that's another plane that is quite relevant within the unified communications sector. Analysis. The SBC and the firewall is a very uniquely positioned device. It is at the edge of your network. It can see everything going on from the edge of the network. So it knows what's coming in. It knows what is going out. What can you do with this information? Typically, you can pick up the usage statistics. And classical model is to let's pick up how occupied our trucks are, how busy we are getting, and on that basis we either increase capacity or we intelligently maneuver our network so that the areas that are underutilized get utilized a bit more, and if you are reaching congestion somewhere, we ease that congestion out, right? So usage statistics and rerouting and recalibrating your network, or adding more capacity as needed. But have you ever considered troubleshooting? The amount of information you have available, again from this vantage point, right at the border, is something very valuable in terms of troubleshooting. How often, we spoke about going to the cloud, which is something we should be doing, but it's not the easiest. Again, there's connectivity and there's everything else that comes in as a channel. But how often have you had a service that you've delivered, being a cloud-hosted platform, the user is complaining that your quality is not great, and then after a long troubleshooting cycle, you discover, no, it's not actually the service, it's the connectivity over to the service. You're at the border. How easy would it be for you to pick up what's happening on both the local area network inside this building and the wide area network, the service that is provided by the provider, right? That's another vantage point that we are providing basically, so that you can explore and look at both ends, very quickly pick up stats on both ends, very quickly identify that the problem is either on the wide or the local area network, and then also have logs available to try and troubleshoot what the issue is. Quality, premium SLAs, right? That's, along with a technical achievement, also a commercial opportunity. Let's upsell a premium SLA and say, you know what, if your quality drops within this, below this value, below this threshold, we will compensate you. And then you have this ability to make sure that you don't let it drop below that particular threshold. Service assurance. critical industries require that the most. Healthcare industries, right? Remote employees offering support services. So many IT services are now delivered through employees working from homes. They need to be always connected. They need to always be having a good quality of service so that when they're speaking to the customers, delivering these services, you're not getting, well, either an outage or degradation in the quality of that communication. And together, all these can help you drive towards operational efficiencies. It opens up a new avenue also for additional services you can offer, because if you can offer resiliency, let's say your primary link is a fixed line link, let's give you a backup link as a 4G LTE link, and let's enable transfer of traffic from one to the other for a low cost, very quickly, making sure that that call is up, if it is a support personnel or if it's somebody from the healthcare industry. So this is the angle that we are looking at and taking towards unified communications, where how do we take this further, both from a technical perspective as well as from a commercial perspective? How do we enable it for the consumer? How do we enable it for the supplier, the provider? So with Ribbon, taking this approach of an end-to-end communication platform, we are securing it, we are enabling it, we are drawing usage statistics from it, and using those usage statistics to both enable a better quality of service, as well as provide the resiliency and service assurance and new revenue opportunities for those supplying these services out into the consumer base. We are also working on, as the industry is progressing towards IoT, machine-to-machine communication, how do we pick this intelligence up? How do we incorporate it with machine learning capabilities so that the first action you take could be a manual action, but that is training the machine to eventually reach a point where if there is a threat detected, if there is an abnormal pattern detected, it can automatically take that action on your behalf. You will of course get notified, and you train it to the point where we are able to do this as an evolved, future-proof, unified communications network, self-adapting, self-healing, and giving you the capability to draw all this information out from it. Thank you. If there's any questions coming through, please.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ τον κύριο Akshay John. Παρακαλώ τον κύριο Διονύση Ζέρβα της Digital Meetings να προσέλθει στο βήμα. Ευχαριστώ.